Those are the good ones. You know what we're talking about.
Signature right there. Four of them.
That's nice. We got She recording? Okay. You ready, Mike? Okay. All right. We will call this joint special city council meeting to order for May 9th, 2023, 5 p.m. And this is a joint meeting with Parks and Rec. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll for council?
Both.
For both? Okay.
Yes.
Here.
Councilmember Ojala?
Here.
Councilmember Best?
Here.
Councilmember Tudor?
Here.
Mayor Carrington?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Moline?
Here.
Councilmember Alcantara?
Here.
Board Member Richard?
Here.
Board Member Albert Konecki?
Here.
Board Member Carmichael?
Here.
Board Member Christensen? Board Member McMahon? Board Member Bennett. Okay, so you have four. Correct.
Okay. In the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we have approval of the agenda. Is there any desire or need to change anything on the agenda? Okay. Is there any opposed to the agenda as it stands? From the council anyway?
No.
Do you want, does Parks and Rec want to change anything on the agenda?
No, nothing from Parks and Rec.
Okay. We'll declare it approved as presented. Audience participation. All those people in the audience that wish to come forward to speak to this joint meeting, you can have 3 minutes. Oh, there is someone in the audience. I don't know if that's on or not.
You might have to push the button on the bottom. Hold the button. Will you hold the button on the bottom of that? The microphone? Yeah. Just push it.
Hold it for like 4 or 5 seconds.
Yeah.
I've held it so long now.
Okay.
Can you all hear me? Okay, thank you. My name is Mike Malevsky. I live in beautiful downtown Palmer, 325 East Fireweed Avenue. And I wanted to just encourage those people who are involved with Parks and Rec, to particularly, and the council as well. I've just had an opportunity to spend a weekend in a city which values bikes to the point where there are green strips that run down streets and bike paths that take you both out of the city and around the city. And this has been a discussion that we've been having for a long, long time. And I know that there has been improvement made. Certainly, the Public Works, the council, and others have been working on it. But I can say that as spring has come down upon us once again, as I ride out and about, I'm reminded of the missing links. It seems to be the most, in my experience, the most potentially dangerous areas whenever we're doing anything. We have parks placed. Getting to them is always the question. And there are some events, even the running events, where many people will ride bikes to get there. So I just encourage you all to remember that the missing links are maybe small in number, but if they can be fixed, that would be a wonderful thing. Thank you.
Thank you. I see no one else rushing forward. We'll close audience participation. New business, committee of the whole. Now, we have to go through this with two different motions?
We can do one together, I'll call it, but
Okay,
any other sense.
so we need to make a motion to,
Enter into it.
okay, so we're looking for a motion to enter into the committee of the whole.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
so moved. Second.
So moved and seconded, and for our understanding, this will actually be for both groups. And she'll call the roll, I think, for everybody. Okay, Madam Clerk, if you can call the roll, please.
Board Member Pereira is a no, sorry. No Bennett, no deficiency. Okay. Board Member Richard,
Aye.
Board Member Albert Konecki.
Yes.
Board Member, is that it? Yep, 1, 2, 3, 4, yep. And then Councilmember Tudor,
Yes.
Councilmember Best,
Yes.
Councilmember Anzalotti,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Moline,
Yes.
Mayor Carrington,
Yes,
Councilmember Alcantara.
Yes.
so, Chairman Richard, what would you like to do?
Come on up here to the front here. So for those of you that do not know me, is that on?
Yeah,
So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Ryan Richard. I'm the current chair of the Parks and Rec Advisory Board. So I really appreciate you taking the time to meet with us. I think it's been about 2 years since we've done this, last time we did it. So just some of the things I wanted to go over this evening. Everyone should have a copy of the Parks and Recreation update. I just put it on your desk before the meeting. And I'll go through it rather briefly just to tell you some of the things that we've done over the past year and some of the things we're going to be working on over the coming year, and also we're going to be looking for a little feedback on one of our larger projects. So starting at the top left there, I just want to talk a little bit. We started with standardizing the parks and green spaces equipment, and that's really focused on a lot of the bigger picture items like picnic tables, benches, plaques. The full-time staff in Brad's section has fielded a lot of requests for some of those additional tables and benches. So we're moving to standardize some of the things that they can pick and that the staff can pick as well to spread out in those green spaces. Moving down to city park signage, we've decided on a standardized park sign, which is the blue mountain-shaped City of Palmer sign. The Bill Herman tennis courts and the ball fields received those signs last fall, and we're starting to prioritize the next parks throughout the city that are going to use standardized signs. We've actually made progress on the Parks website and the Adopt a Park program. If you go to the City of Palmer website, all of the city parks now have their own section. It has a list of the standardized features as well as a link to the Google Maps, so you can actually navigate yourself to those city parks. Matsu Borough Bike and Pedestrian Plan. I know a gentleman in the corner there talked a little bit about the connecting those green spaces and those parks. This kind of came to us late, but there's a borough-led effort going on right now. It closes in June, and it's inventorying and documenting those borough bike paths and pedestrian networks sort of to identify their gaps and deficiencies. We as board members submitted some comments through their public forum options to look for spots where we can leverage the borough park or the borough trails and their planned trails and connect them to the city parkways as well. Moving on to the top right, we started to talk about the Metropolitan Planning Organization. I really don't have too much to say with that. Community Development briefed us just this spring on that, and that's in its beginning stages, but it's really centered around a lot of the transportation funding that's going to be coming. Obviously, I think some of you are familiar with that, so I don't mean to rehash that, but our interest in the Parks Advisory motorized transportation, the trails, and how we can leverage that program to come back into the city. Brad also talked to us quite a bit about the railway reutilization downtown. And that's centered around the downtown core area. Brad has given us a really thorough discussion on the plan, and it's talking about areas centered around the train depot and the Friday Fling area. We do have I think everyone's pretty much familiar with that, so I won't go into a lot of detail on that. But we think with there's a nice dovetail with the Veterans and First Responder Memorial, which I'll talk about shortly, and the Engine 557 plan as well. We think there's an opportunity to bring those together on the south side of East Fireweed. And really the last topic I want to talk to you about is the Veterans and First Responders Memorial. The board worked on this beginning in 2018, and we had a joint meeting in the fall of 2019, and we got tentative approval from the city council at that time to continue working on that project. So we as a board already have a resolution that I think that's come before you already previously. Tentative approval for the board to keep moving forward on this. I believe $2 million, Brad, correct? Is it $2 million on the capital improvements list? Resolution is looking for approval for some initial, I believe $5,000 for some initial design work on that. We really just want to get some feedback from the board on that and just to make sure we're heading in the right direction, aligned with your wishes on that. And that's pretty much the update that I have. Any questions of us? There's 4 of us here. If you have any questions or any feedback on any of the project issues or anything we haven't talked about.
Councilman Alcantara, you're so shy.
Been on the city council now for just about a year and haven't met yet, so I'll own that and say that you don't know what you don't know. And I guess I'm curious, this resolution that was attached has a July date on it. Is this something we funded already for you for this $5,000, or is it something we're going to take action on
I'm hoping
today?
it has not been funded yet. This is our resolution that was passed last summer, and we're looking to get, hopefully, yes, thumbs up, and if the money's in the budget, $5,000 to move forward with that initial design work.
Well, normally I would just elbow the city manager who
Sure.
shares my name right here and
Sure.
say, you know, we're doing these, a lot of funding for a lot of different events in Palmer. Great events, but one of my things got funded to the tune of $4,500. So I think looking at this proposal for a development plan for this Veterans First Responders Memorial Wall, I definitely I'm on the side to try to make this happen as quickly as we can. So thanks for your guys' work collectively on it, and sorry we're just meeting for the first time, and I need to start trying to make it to your guys' meetings a little more often, so I know what you're doing. But thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Oh, yes.
Mayor, thank you so much for being here and a nicely laid out plan. I'm really interested in I think that it's wonderful that the Veterans and First Responders Memorial is being conceptualized. But with that, is there some external organizations that you guys have reached out to, or is that still just in the preliminary stages? I know like Wasilla for a program that they used. Have you guys had an opportunity to work with anybody such as that, or can you kind of familiarize us?
Yes,
with who you've
very
talked to?
limited. Because I didn't want to overstep our authority a little bit, I wanted to get a lot of feedback from the board. I have reached out to the Pioneers Home. I talked to Josh, his last name, but he's the director there. I talked with him about potentially co-locating it there and just started the ball rolling there. Lisa has also reached out, and she's given me a signed letter. Lisa, what's the group again?
Letter saying they happy to support it, and I know that they have money. And also the Alaska State Trooper.
Yeah.
Thumbs up letter also.
And Joseph, he was expected to be here. Joseph has also connected me to, I'm going to paraphrase, but some of the Christian Veterans Associations. I haven't really delved too deeply into that. I really wanted to get a lot more feedback from the board before we start really connecting with organizations to go a lot forward. And that's the limited discussions we've had. And I really I didn't feel it was proper to talk to the city of Wasilla yet. I really thought that should come from either the city manager or the city council before I do that.
Josh, Councilman Tudor, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Oh, I'm good either way. I just want to say thank you guys for all the work you guys have done. I got to give you kudos. I've been kind of following the website changes, and that's a really welcome addition. And I've noticed the signage changing. It's looking a lot better. I just want to say thank you guys for all you're doing. I had some questions about the memorial, but I think everyone asked the questions I had. So I guess my only question is on the railway revitalization project. Do you have any information on that? Of what, or is that pretty much just following through on that plan? Okay, yeah, I think I've seen the plan from the city manager. So I'm really looking forward to that too. And that's when you guys are doing an amazing job. It's been seeing the improvements with the parks has been very noticeable, and I think the community sees it too. And you guys are doing great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Brad's doing on that. Of course, he's just kind of keeping us pointed in the right direction. Yeah.
You good at that?
Yeah.
And I'll just take the opportunity to comment that get on the website, look up our boards and commissions, see when their meetings are, and they're all public. So you can pop in, and I've been known to do that occasionally. And, you know, and I don't necessarily stay very long, but yes, Councilman Best, sorry.
Well, I'm going to take a little bit of a different tone, because part of the problem that we have is the ethics code that was presented to council a couple of years ago, and it actually prevents us from participating in those meetings and law. And this is where I've had a problem with us and our ethics code as it is written, because it was set up to be a catch-all to try to trip people up from being able to be your elected officials as we are. Because part of the problem that I have, I appreciate the effort, and I want you all to hear me from my voice as saying, I appreciate the efforts that you are doing. Aspect is, this is a Park and Rec Advisory Board, the elected body, and when I hear positions being taken and contact being made, when this body, the governing body, hasn't gone forward with saying this is what we are doing, this is where non-governmental agencies that we all hear about in the news and everything, NGOs, right? But this is a subset, this is a entity that is created by the city, and it now takes away from us participating as elected officials. So I get really nervous when I hear contact has been made on behalf of the city where we haven't made a vote. And I want you to hear that I'm not upset at you. It's the process has gotten us hung up again, and I'm frustrated. Now, was that said, because I would have liked to have participated in many of these conversations, and I've watched a lot of the stuff, but because of our ethics code, the way it is written, it hangs us up. And that's something that we as a body are going to have to readdress. With that being said, when it comes back to the actual functionality of your group, I would also love to see connectivity and, you know, we have members of our community that are coming in that are parks that are being developed for people with disabilities. Well, where have we been doing that kind of stuff? These are the policy issues that I'd like to see being addressed and then brought forward for council to approve, and then we go forward with. To be this Park and Rec, we had great aspirations for being able to go and make partnerships, and it was supposed to be partnerships that would be discussed there, come here, and then we set forward, and then you get an adopt a park people, and they're managing that based off of the parameters that we have set forth. But instead, this has been 8 years of bleh. We've really not accomplished much. We're starting to see a much better engagement. I appreciate this. The focus that you are making things to where it is cookie cutter and it's, you know, things are decided and moved forward. I appreciate that. But where we are right now with going forward, I also am a big supporter of veterans and first responders and, you know, the veterans home and trails and parks, but we haven't had that community discussion yet. This is where the Parks and Rec Board was supposed to help flush out these discussions and have those discussions and then bring it forward, and then we can have more discussions with the public, because we had so many years of turmoil with the Rails to Trails program or the Eastern Terminus, and things just get hung up. And so I'd like to see a little bit more focus on connectivity of what we have and augmenting so that those that are not being serviced. But for the body to be taking and making resolutions of how the city is going forward, I have a problem with that body as an advisory body taking us down those paths. There's a lot in there. I apologize.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Deputy Mayor Moline.
You're looking right at me, so I know, I know you're expecting.
Well, I see one red light over there, but there's nobody
Yeah,
sitting
I
there.
think that's so that we can capture whatever it is that they might say. I actually can, you know, I can appreciate and kind of read between the lines of what Councilman Best is trying to convey, and that is that a lot of times things come to us as if it is just, oh, here we just need you to rubber stamp it. It's been vague in its delivery to us, and it's not just you. It's many things, right? So I think what we're trying to get at is you have a very hands-on council. They're deeply vested in collaboration, and we don't want to be inhibited in any way, shape, or form in offering collaboration. And that it does feel like sometimes there's been all this work and it's been done in the background, and then it just comes to us and it's like here it is, and we just need you to approve it. And it's like, well, wait a second. We've got a lot of questions about this. As stewards of the people's money and time and their city, you know, I think that responsibility, and I can really appreciate what you said. Thank you.
Yes, Board Member.
Lisa, that's good
Lisa.
enough. I think, I'm speaking for myself, I know that we operate as an advisory board. And everything that we have done, we already know that this is, nothing is written in stone. Brad lets us know right away, everything has to go through council. I think we're all aware of that, but, you know, perhaps you guys need to make things a little more clear to us at where our boundaries are. Certainly, for instance, when I asked for letters about the memorial, I made it clear that there was no plan in place. We were just trying to get interest. So I don't recall exactly what was in the letters that they sent to me, but perhaps they're a little more eager and saying, yeah, let's do it, or whatever. But we never operate, we always operate under the assumption that everything has to go through council, and we know that. So, thank you.
Thank you. And I think one of our problems is, I'm trying to remember when is the last joint meeting we've had with the Parks and Rec. Has it been a couple of years?
This should have been the fall of 2019.
Oh, okay, a few years then.
Yeah.
So there's a reason that the communication seems to be lacking, because we dropped the ball, I guess.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Councilman Best,
Thank you. And
something positive, right?
all of it is positive. It's how you take it. You know, part of this exercise is that, again, if council doesn't feel comfortable or aware of things, how do we think that the public is receiving it? Because as much as we are probably more informed than most of the general public. But if we don't feel comfortable or informed, the public is really far out of that same perspective. So that's part of this.
Councilman Alcantara.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have the experience or go back as far as Councilmember Best or Mayor Carrington, but I obviously been in Palmer and surrounds a long time. I really don't know what exactly they're referring to. So when I, as a council member, I think we approve you guys to serve on this advisory board. You know, we have a couple of you just fairly recently, since at least 3 of us have only been on the board a little less than a year. So I don't know what the gory details of the past are, but I do know that, as I've probably said in this body before, that the windshield's really big and the rearview mirror is really small. And let's say what we can do to look forward and not look back in time at what may or may not have happened. But this one thing that you're bringing forward, I mean, for seed money to determine if this thing can fly seems extremely appropriate to me. So I don't know where, you know, I can't go back to between the, or even longer, some of these folks of what's been happening between the Parks and Rec Advisory Board and the council, or what hasn't been, but not really interested in it, to be honest. I'm interested in how we do things that I see in front. I hope we can figure out a way to do that. Thank you.
So then I guess the next question I have for everyone is, what is our, how, I guess I'm looking for some discussion from the council on how you want us to move forward, if you want us to move forward.
Deputy Mayor Moline.
Sorry, had a little problem with my button there. Do we need a motion in order to approve the 5,000 at current state, or is the motion already there because we're in the committee of the whole? What's our process?
Neither.
Okay.
We're in the committee of the whole, so we can't do motions.
Thank you.
But when we come out of the committee of the whole, we could direct the manager to bring a resolution
Thank you.
with $5,000 attached towards planning for this. Is it,
Thank you.
okay, clerk says I'm in the right, this is good. So, and I believe we can do that right after we come out of the committee as a whole. So, I mean, but you can comment on it if you guys, you know, the council thinks that's a good idea, is to put 5,000 towards this plan. Councilman Alcantara.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. So I second that motion when we come out of committee of the whole. Thanks.
Councilman Best.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My problem is what we've all heard. It was presented before us tonight. Part of this plan has been addressed and tied back into the railroad project. And you know what? We haven't made that decision. This body has not made that decision. We've talked about pathways, but this has been presented not just within this body, but then to other entities as tying into this railroad, you know, pulling up the railroad tracks and having a pathway. And we have to decouple this. If we want to talk about a park for veterans and all that kind of stuff, that's one thing. But there again, this is tying back into these pedestrian parkways and pathways, back into the railroad projects, and all of it's kind of being all tied together, and that's where things get convoluted. It's like, on one hand, yes, it could tie into, but this body hasn't made that decision. The public hasn't had that discussion yet. And so I can appreciate, yes, a veteran and memorials park, but how that is now part of a small piece of all these other plans that we haven't agreed to, I have a problem with. And I know that right now the resolution doesn't speak to it, but it's not what's being spoken here. It's what's being spoken out there.
Deputy Mayor Moline.
So, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, I can appreciate that, but as this resolution stands right now, this is just exploratory, correct? I mean, that's just what this is. So just as we had directed the city manager as well as Mr. Hanson with the railroad corridor effort, that was just to take it to the people to get feedback. It wasn't, we made no decisions that we were in agreement on that, but that it was exploratory, that we wanted feedback. So I'm thinking that this is the same thing. But I can understand your point because there has been a lot of, we're doing this corridor thing and it's like, no, we're not. Just, we're taking feedback right now at this point. So I can understand that what Mr. Best is saying is that we need clarity and very concise language and very specific guardrails in all of this if this does go forward.
Of course.
And I guess I wasn't confused because it said Veterans and First Responders Memorial, so I thought that was clear. So let me ask though, are we talking about on the Pioneer Home property? Are we talking on the railroad property? Are we talking both?
That decision lies with the city council. We, the advisory board, have gone through the process and we have a couple of options. Of course, we can present to you, but that final decision, of course, is, I would think, appropriately lies with you to decide where you want to put it. We're just kind of advising and moving the ball forward to get this going.
Councilman O'Donnell, thank you.
Okay, so we're not really sure where this would be at, right? We're just kind of trying to figure out $5,000 to ask somebody to design it,
Yes,
but no location yet?
correct.
Okay.
And correct me if I overspeak or incorrect, please. But yes, it's just the initial concept and initial design.
Okay.
Is there an approximate location?
I can speak to 3 locations that the advisory board, we kind of kicked around a little bit. Co-located on the grounds of the Pioneer Home by their flagpole. My conversation with Josh, he indicated that ground is originally City of Palmer ground that was ceded to the Pioneers Home. And he, of course, the legalities we didn't explore at all, of course, but he would be open to that becoming part of the Pioneers Home ground. That would be the first option. The second option we talked about was north of the train depot to help extend the downtown core area a little bit further north up towards the skate park. And then a third option we talked about was integrating with the current Veterans Memorial Grove. Those were the 3 that we kicked around as just initial concept ideas. Of course, there obviously could be some that we haven't even thought of locations as well.
And then I'm just curious, were you thinking, are you trying to add like a park area to this? Or is it just like a walk? I'm just curious.
Not in the park, we're just trying to, if we can integrate it in a current park area or a current green space, that's really the option.
Yeah, okay. All right, thank you. I was just curious. Thanks.
You're familiar with the Wasilla veterans?
Yeah, yes.
We're not looking, I mean, they incorporated it in the front of their police department.
Police department, yeah.
So we're not looking, I don't think it's feasible to buy ground and do that,
Okay.
do that option.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Tudor.
Hey, Mr. Mayor, I was just a little curious, so if the north of Train Depot area, is that still owned by the Alaska Railroad, where they could just yank that land back at some point? And then, so that's my only kind of fear with that, or even,
Of course.
I like the idea of the Pioneer Home, but I'm just worried if, because if it's not City of Palmer land, if we should put that there, but I think there's some good ideas, especially like, integrating with the Veterans Grove would be good, and there's a lot of good spots that would work. Do you have any like preliminary ideas of kind of what you're going for the general design? I know it's not,
I mean, all I've done, I'm not a designer, I'm not a landscape architect by any means, and that's really why I think we want to have somebody who knows what they're doing do it.
Sure, yeah.
There's all sorts of options out there, so.
Okay, this one should be like a vision or something in mind already.
Not really, I think in our discussion, everyone seemed to have a different vision.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways you can go with it, that makes sense.
And everyone remembers how divisive the the Vietnam Memorial was when it first came out.
Oh, yeah.
And now it's an iconic memorial. So it's just, you know,
Yeah,
beauty's in the eye of the beholder, I guess.
that's true.
So,
Well, thank you.
Any more questions? Any questions, more questions from the board?
nothing from us, anything?
So where do we go from here?
I got one more question, Mr. Mayor.
Sure.
Not that I'm saying this is a bad idea or anything, I like it and all, but, so there is a wall in Wasilla. And then, so, just curious, how did this come about that we need one in Palmer? I'm just curious, not that I'm,
What's the history of it? I guess it would be the previous mayor is the one who appointed some of us to the board, and that was some of the direction that she gave to the board at that time, when she really wanted to see this project move forward. So that's sort of the history. I believe that would have been about 2018.
oh, okay.
So it's sort of one of those projects that we've just kind of been incrementally trying to move forward.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anything else on this? Councilman Alcantara.
Yeah, I'll take a question to get us off this, this particular topic. But I'm just curious, someone lived here a while but really couldn't tell you, in the city even are, is there like an inventory list that you guys have that says that they have a park on Darren Drive, we have a park on Cobb Street, we have a park, et cetera, et cetera? Is that on this
There is,
website?
and it's on the city website now, so it has them all listed. One of the great features that Brad thought of was actually it'll link to Google Maps and it'll just pull it up. So you can.
How many are there in the city?
Should have been
Go
something.
to the website right now and check, okay.
Yeah, it's not a huge number, but it's more than 5.
Yeah.
And I was kind of surprised when I went and looked a few weeks ago. I was kind of surprised. I found a park that I didn't even know existed.
I guess to bring it back to the idea for a responders wall and a veterans wall is that because Wasilla has one 12 miles away, if anything, it should make us competitive to want something of
was the driving force behind it. So we won't.
no.
Yeah, I think with the Pioneer Home and what Josh told me is that is the only veterans home in the state Pioneer Home system. So I think it would be a real natural fit to be in.
But just like I don't want to drive to Wasilla to play tennis, I'm
Sure.
happy that we revamped our tennis courts here with help of others and made our tennis courts nicer than the ones there by the Wonderland Park in Wasilla. There has to be a natural competition between cities, and it's healthy. It's a good thing. We know Palmer's Alaska at its best, but we want Palmer to continue to be that. And so I have no issue with if there's a wall in Anchorage, a wall in Wasilla, a wall in Seward, a wall in Glen Allen. I hope there's one everywhere.
Yeah.
And I hope we can be part of this.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Let's say it's called the Potato Bowl. Deputy Mayor Lee.
So, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So actually, Mr. Alcantara, I can answer some of that question for you, is that I did kind of some research about a year and a half ago, maybe it was 2 years now, that the Mat-Su, like Wasilla, Palmer area has between 17-ish trails, and actually 11 of them, there's like 11, maybe and some change, that are actually located on the Palmer greater area side. So we do have a majority of the trails already, so, yeah.
Is there any other questions or comments? All right. I don't remember how they come out of it. Okay. There's no objection, we'll come out of the hole. And there's not objection from the council. I guess I'd like to direct the manager to prepare a resolution with the suggested funding, but prepare for some debate and some history and maybe some direction in the process. Does that sound? Do we want to, I'll make that as a motion. We have a second. Any discussion on it? I guess we're out of committee of the whole. We can actually do a motion. Okay, Madam Clerk, you want to call the roll?
Councilmember Best,
Yes.
Councilmember Tudor,
Yes?
Deputy Mayor Moline,
Yes.
Mayor Carrington,
Yes?
Councilmember Anzalati,
Yes.
Councilmember Ojala,
Yes.
Councilmember Alcantara,
Yes.
unanimous.
Okay. I think that's it for our agenda. Okay. So we will be adjourned. Get ready for another meeting. Thank you, Ryan.